Hello, hello. Happy Thursday evening to you all. I am Henry John. I'm joined by the coach, Kevin Schroeder. Coach, it's been a couple weeks since we've been on here doing some fantasy football start sit discussion. We had a scheduling conflict come up a couple weeks ago there. This past week was Thanksgiving. So we're like, all right, we're really going to do a show on Turkey Day when we're both sitting around bloated. I hear you were out playing football, doing your own Julian Edelman impersonation. So that's probably more
Yeah.
exercise than I got on Turkey Day, fully honest. But yeah, it's great to be back. Week 13 on deck. Kind of a weird NFL slate, it feels like to me this week. So I guess we got to dive into some fantasy football to really get the full enjoyment I feel like out of this one. But how are you? How was your holiday? And anything else you want to touch on? I'm excited to chop things up again here with you tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Glad to be back. It's been a couple weeks since we did the show here, and so it's nice to go through all of our start sits again, and things are going well. But Thanksgiving was a nice little reprieve from got a few days off work there, and so that was nice. And I did pretty well in my lineups, and even won a little in DFS too. So,
All right, there we go. That sounds like a good Turkey Day weekend to me. Um, Definitely excited to be back with you here talking tonight. You have got your 3 fantasy football start sit columns up over on flurrysports.org, as you always do here each and every week. So we will be jumping into those, talking about some of the plays and also the fades that coach is looking at here for week 13. But as always, we are here to serve you, the people, first. So if you're watching us live on the Flurry Sports YouTube, first of all, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a show again. But also feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll answer them as they come in. Any start sit questions you have, if you're looking at adding guys or dropping guys or whatever, any scenarios you got here with week 13 looming, fire those questions in, and Coach and I will answer them. We'll be on here for about an hour. We'll pretty much go up close to the kickoff of Cowboys Saints on Thursday Night Football. Coach, that's an interesting game on Thursday Night Football because, number one, the Cowboys have got their full receiving cast coming back. This is like the first time since week 1, I believe, that all of Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup are going to be in the lineup for Dallas. On the other side, though, the Saints remain banged up, and they're going to try and start Taysom Hill at quarterback tonight. So I'm going to say this right now. I have not jumped into Coach's articles yet, so I apologize if I'm stealing some of your thunder, but I do want to talk a little Thursday Night Football here just to get us into things, get us warmed up, if you will. What are your thoughts on Taysom Hill tonight? Obviously, we know what he can do with his legs. The Cowboys defense has been pretty tough for the most part. However, then you have games like last week against the Raiders where it's like, okay, maybe they still have some issues to work on there. And the other thing I would note too is the Saints are going to be without both starting offensive tackles again here tonight due to injuries as well. No Alvin Kamara. What are you thinking on Taysom Hill? Is he a play for you tonight for owners looking to stream in quarterbacks or Superflex 2QB? Where do you see him falling?
So I like Taysom Hill a lot
Okay.
this week. I actually have him as a start. The offense is going to flow through him this week. It's looking pretty bleak. I actually just saw Tony Jones is out too this week. So it's going to be Ingram. I think the backup is it Ty Washington? Might be getting some running back.
Ty Montgomery is down there. I know that. The only
Yeah,
reason I know that is because he left the Jets to go to the Saints.
Yeah, Ty Montgomery and Washington, it looks like, are the two backups tonight. So it's gonna be the Taysom Hill show. I think that he should be primed for a pretty heavy rushing workload tonight. I don't know if I'd play anyone else on the Saints except for Ingram. I think Ingram is definitely in play. Any of the receivers, I don't really have interest in. I think it's pretty much Hill and Ingram.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. It's going to be tough sledding. I kind of like the switch to Taysom Hill here, just because we've seen what Trevor Siemian is at this point here, right? They're not going to win games with him at quarterback. You could even make the case that they kind of have to win this game tonight if the Saints are going to seriously contend for an NFC playoff spot. So, do I think they're going to win the game? No, but I think at this point, Taysom Hill does give Sean Payton and the Saints the best chance to win, just to throw that wrinkle at the Cowboys, who, by the way, will be without Mike McCarthy. So that's definitely a big blow to their preparation and sideline management, I guess, game management. Big loss there, right? Mike McCarthy. Yeah, I'm funny. We do have a question, though, regarding Mark Ingram and the Saints game here in the chat. Jers from Twitch, hello. He is wondering, Coach, about starting Mark Ingram, it looks like, or Brandon Ayuk. So I would assume this is a flex spot in a half PPR league. Obviously, Ingram going tonight with the Saints, and Brandon Ayuk and the 49ers on Sunday playing the Seattle Seahawks. The lifeless Seattle Seahawks on the road. Interesting note there, Deebo Samuel probably not going to play in that game for the Niners. So does that bump Ayuk up substantially in your mind? Ingram looks like he's going to be it's going to be Ingram and Hill, like you said, for the Saints tonight. So this is an interesting one here.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. Looking to see here. At Seattle, you got Ingram's going to get all the work he can handle tonight. I think it's going to be a pretty run-heavy game. Half PPR. Boy, in a half PPR, I probably give the nod to Ingram.
Okay.
With this full workload. If it was PPR, I think I'd probably give it to Ayuk with Samuel out. But I do think with it being a half PPR, I do think Ingram should find the end zone. In San Francisco, I'm not a big fan of Shanahan and Shanahanigans.
I know. Trust me.
He's burned me so many times. I mean, this could be the week that all of a sudden Trey Sermon's going to go out there and play slot, and he's going to get targeted 3 times.
No.
Sure, Lance could come out, and they might do a 2-quarterback system this week. No, I think Ingram is probably the safer play between the two.
Yeah, I think with what volume he's looking at tonight, I would tend to agree with you. Like, what else are the Saints going to do? Also, Taysom Hill is a little banged up as well. Now, I don't know how much that's necessarily impacting his prep and, his performance on the field tonight, but we do have to remember he's been on the injury report the past few weeks. I honestly believe that Sean Payton might have made the switch from Siemian to Hill sooner, had that injury not been a thing. So kind of interested to see, how does that impact him as a passer and whatnot tonight. But then again, are the Saints going to be able to do anything? Like, this offense has been completely broken. I tend to think that there are going to be a few wrinkles up Sean Payton's sleeve. I think it's a coaching mismatch tonight. The Saints should be able to, at least get you some decent fantasy production there, especially when Mark Ingram, we're talking about, is one of the main guys there. Coach, Zach, Trevor, and I were talking on the Tuesday show. We're not necessarily convinced that Brandon Ayuk is going to get a huge bump in targets, even with Deebo Samuel out. Now, maybe part of that is the Shanahanigans that you so love to reference on this show, and I laugh every time you do it. But George Kittle didn't do much last week. I feel like if one of those two guys is going to see a greater increase in fantasy production from last week to this, I would argue it's going to be Kittle. Now, Ayuk has had double-digit. This is PPR points I'm looking at here. The last 5 weeks for him, since he's carved out a larger role and more trust in this offense. But we know the Niners want to run the ball first, and I don't know. It's tough for me to sit here and say he's definitely going to have a huge bump in production or looks or whatever you want to call it. Even with Deebo Samuel looking like he's not going to play, do you tend to agree with that? Do you think Kittle gets more of a bump, or is it just you're scared of San Francisco altogether here?
Yeah, I've gotten burned so many times by this team. There's Kittle's kind of on my list of guys that I'm hesitant to ever play, just because I feel like whenever I put him in my lineup in DFS or when I've had him in season long, he hasn't produced for me, and I've kind of shied away from that. And it's really anyone's guess. I think the only people that know are sitting inside the 49ers team meetings right now as far as what's going to really happen this week. You would think it would be you'd think they'd both be beneficiaries. You'd think they'd both get more work, especially to offset what Deebo Samuel has really done for this offense. But, I mean, I would have thought back in week one that Trey Sherman was the beneficiary of you would think their third-round pick would be ahead of their sixth-round pick for the first week. But, there's always surprises there. I do think Kittle's a must-play this week at tight end, if he wasn't anyway. And I think he's a great play for DFS. I'm a little gun-shy on pulling trigger that Ayuk's going to – I think, yeah, it's going to be kind of split the difference. Maybe I give Kittle a little bit more benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely hear everything you're saying there. I think my issue with Trey Sherman is he's just not good. Elijah Mitchell is turning out to be all that and then some. So
yes,
I was able to trade for him middle of the season. I actually moved AJ Brown in that deal and got Mitchell and Jalen Waddle were the return. It was AJ Brown and I think James Conner, and it was right before Chase Edmonds got hurt too, which I now have since gone out and acquired Edmonds. So I'm just waiting for him to get back and sabotage James Conner. And that's going to be a complete win for me. But yeah. And I got laughed at in that league too, saying, what are you doing? Like, you're completely losing this trade. Blah, blah, blah. And guess what? We're doing all right now. So that just goes to show, sometimes you got to roll with your gut, roll with what you're seeing, roll with the underlying stats and not just necessarily the fantasy points from that last week or the box score. When you're making trades and whatnot, and even start-sit decisions, it can impact everything. Targets, volume, situations, all of that. Much more important than what a guy did last week.
For sure.
Yep. Our YouTube audience is chiming in here as well. Mateo, full PPR league. He is wondering about starting Mark Ingram or Terry McLaurin. So we both just hyped up Mark Ingram in the Brandon Ayuk half PPR situation. Now we got a full PPR. Ingram tonight, Terry McLaurin, and Washington. Oh boy, they are playing the Las Vegas Raiders, who might soon have a baseball team joining them out near the Strip. A little excited about that news that broke today. But what are you thinking here, Coach? That on paper, that is a juicy matchup for McLaurin. But do you trust Taylor Heineke? Do you trust the Washington offense?
Yeah, I think for me, that one's McLaurin, and I don't even think that one's particularly close. I think McLaurin's, especially in a PPR, I think he's the play there. He does have some boom bust to his game where he's got some weeks where he's been pretty quiet. I do think they will need to score to put up some point. Las Vegas is going to score, so I think this one they will need to pass more than just grounding out their win with. And the other thing too is looking at if McKissick misses this game, that might open up a few more underneath targets too. So I like McLaurin a lot this week.
Yeah, Logan Thomas coming back. I don't know how much that really changes things because you had Ricky Seals-Jones there when he was out for the most part. Speaking of not looking at fantasy box scores and basing all of your decisions on that, Coach, the Raiders PPR leagues allowing the sixth fewest fantasy points per game to the wide receiver position. Tell me how that makes any sense, given the fact that secondary is in total shambles. I know Casey Hayward's come off the streets and done a good job for them here this year. But besides that, I mean, they are thin in that defensive secondary. And it just so happens that, the touchdowns and whatnot, I guess, in these games have gone to other players. That is a misleading fantasy box score stat. When I flip over here to, let's see here, adjusted defensive efficiency, the Raiders 25th against the pass in the league out of 32 defenses. So perfect example right there of what we're talking about. You got to dig deeper than the box score, what this guy scored last week, what a team is even allowing in this case to a position. It doesn't always tell the full story. And I laugh too looking at these things because the Eagles are giving up the third fewest fantasy points per game to receivers. And outside of Darius Slay, that secondary also not that great. We look at tight ends and they're a whole lot worse. So good stuff there. I am with you on McLaurin as well. I think that game does see a lot of points scored. I can't remember what the actual total for it is off the top of my head, but I do believe it was one of the higher ones of the week. And while I like Mark Ingram tonight, trusting the Saints offense in general over a guy like Scary Terry, that's not really something I want to do, I think, in this situation. Mario Della Torre, he is in – oh, boy, this is a fun one. He is in a 2-quarterback league. Who has the better chance of scoring anything this week? We got 4 teams on bye. We got injuries. You're in a 2-quarterback league. I don't know how deep it is, so I send you my condolences. But, Coach, Trevor Siemian tonight or Gardner Minshew with the Eagles against the Jets. Now, Gardner Minshew's name is brought up because Jalen Hurts, he has an ankle injury. He's been limited in practice. He was limited today. We definitely talked about this situation on the Tuesday show too, and we were all in agreement that Jalen Hurts better hope he's healthy enough to start, and even if he's not, he better get out there. Otherwise, he might lose his job. What do you think here? This is a tough one to answer because I feel for Mario, but we got to try and do it.
Yeah, this is a tough spot to the end. Boy, you're really shooting for a big play here, or something crazy to happen here. So you got Taysom Hill with plantar fasciitis playing tonight, which
Yes.
he's cleared to play, so he is starting. And then you have Jalen Hurts, who's banged up with the ankle. So that one's still to come. So I would probably give Minshew the slight nod. That being said, plantar fasciitis is painful. But I think once you're out there on the field, it's something that it's kind of a pain tolerance thing, I think. Whereas a sprained ankle, I mean, you could always mess that up further. So I think between the two, I probably would say Minshew's got the slightest chance of doing better this week.
I am going to agree with you. I'm going to take a different route to explain myself, though, because I like your points. So I'm just going to go with a little something different here. The Saints are making a switch because Trevor Siemian has been so bad to Taysom Hill to try and throw a different wrinkle at a Cowboys defense that is probably going to show up to play, I would think, tonight after they were kind of run off their own field last week on Thanksgiving in front of a national audience. I doubt they want to let that happen again in prime time. Meanwhile, Jalen Hurts, who is dealing with the ankle injury, like you said, Coach, now he is practicing limited, should be good to go. That's what all reports seem to indicate this Sunday. But he was awful last week against the Giants. 3 interceptions. The Eagles lost a game that they had no business losing. Outgained the Giants by almost 100 yards, I'm pretty sure. What is it with the Giants defense getting outgained and forcing turnovers and still coming out with these wins? They did it against the Raiders too. But whoever's at quarterback for the Eagles this week should, in theory, benefit from a matchup against the atrocious New York Jets defense. I mean, we are talking next level bad here with the Jets. In terms of adjusted metrics, they're dead last in adjusted defensive efficiency on the season, Coach. And that adjusted metric of dead last they've played the second easiest schedule. So they're adjusted against the second easiest schedule. So it's worse than dead last. Like it's worse than worst. It's awful. They can't stop anyone. The Texans were stopping themselves last week. I don't know how the Jets won that game. May or may not have had the Texans in a survivor pool. And of course, my own team knocks me out, right? But yeah. I would rather go with Gardner Minshew because if Jalen Hurts has any sort of setback with the injury, if he aggravates it in the game, like you say, you can easily re-aggravate an ankle injury. You take one wrong step or get rolled up on or something. Jalen Hurts being a running quarterback, likely to happen. Even if Gardner Minshew comes in garbage time, because I could see garbage time in that game, I'm going to give him the nod over Trevor Siemian. I don't think Trevor Siemian's involved hardly at all tonight. It would take Taysom Hill, the plantar fasciitis flaring up on him, and things are just not panning out for Siemian to even get involved in that game. And if both guys are to get involved late in the game, if there's garbage time in both, definitely like Minshew going up against the Jets more than I would Siemian against Dallas.
You bring up an interesting point though on Siemian though, or something just kind of as you were talking here. I could see some trickery by the goal line where Taysom Hill gets where Siemian comes in. Taysom Hill gets moved out to a wide receiver fullback or something goofy like that, like they used to do with Drew Brees, where two quarterbacks on the field. I could see Sean Payton reaching deep into the bag of tricks if they need to score tonight. But I think I think this is a tough spot to be in for Mario. But I would give me Gardner Minshew too.
Yeah. Also, it's Gardner Minshew. Like, if you're gonna ask me Trevor Siemian or Gardner Minshew any day of the week, sorry, it's Minshew. Get this man a starting job. Mario, good luck to you. My thoughts and prayers go out to you tonight. Like, I'm going to be thinking of you, hoping that Minshew does something against the Jets on Sunday. But come back next week if you want, and let us know which way you ultimately went. And I guess we'll have some sort of idea of how it worked out for you. But maybe you can still get a win. Just beef up those other positions. You're good. All right, Coach. I think we've cleaned out the questions for now. But any other start-sit advice you're looking at for Week 13, feel free to ask away in the chat, and we'll step aside from the articles at any point to answer those for you. Coach, I want to jump into, I think we'll start with running backs this week. Your running back start-sit article over on flurrysports.org. The reason I wanted to start with running backs is because I love the photo that adorns this article. It is Jamal Williams doing a massive flex for the cameras. Detroit Lions running back Jamal Williams. Detroit Lions starting running back Jamal Williams, that is, because there's no DeAndre Swift this week and possibly longer. So Williams is still somehow hanging around on the waiver wire in your league. Go make that ad because he might be the lead guy for the foreseeable future. I know Dan Campbell this week has already said Williams is prepared to handle the bulk of the workload out of the backfield. Obviously, this is a Lions team that doesn't have a whole lot of receiving threats in terms of down the field. They also, I'm not sure that they have a quarterback capable of hitting downfield threats. So along with those things that I just said, which I assume you are all on board with, why else do you like Jamal Williams as a start this week?
Yeah, so he was actually last year with the Packers. You know, he had a few spot starts there when Aaron Jones went down, and he's always produced. I mean, he's a very good running back, very capable. And even last week, you know, when Swift left in the first quarter, maybe the second quarter, he pretty much just took on the workhorse role there, had 20 touches in the game, and managed to finish as the running back 19 last week. This week, it should be a matchup against the Vikings that I think they should be up for. It's a division game. I think they should put up a show. Might even have an outside shot at winning it. And so that's I've heard that from a few Vikings fans. So that is the take, at least in Minnesota here. But I think he's set up for a workhorse role. With Swift, as far as Swift is concerned, I've read that it's an AC joint sprain, and those are not typically ones that you're back in 1 or 2 weeks for. I read earlier today that it looks like Swift is no guarantee to be back in week 14. This could be a situation where if you are Detroit and you're sitting here at, let's say they proceed to lose their next few games, you're staring at over on the year. You might want to consider just setting Swift for the rest of the year. So I don't see any hurry to bring him back, especially if he's not 100%. So I think Williams might be the back there for at least the next 2 weeks, maybe longer. So
Love everything you just said. I love Jamal Williams, the player. I think I speak for a lot of us over at Flurry Sports, especially you Packer fans up north. He did good things for you guys up there. And when healthy for the Lions this year, even in a backup role, he has produced, going back to week 1, even 25 fantasy points. He played 35% of the snaps in that game. He has 3 double-digit fantasy point games on the season. Obviously played a little more last week, his second game back from his own injury absence after Swift was forced to exit there in the first half, and gave you 13 plus in PPR leagues. So also the matchup this week against the Vikings, sneaky good. Vikings are 29th in adjusted defensive efficiency against the run. And I know a lot of people look at, I think, that defense in the young secondary, and they're like, well, their weakness is defending the pass. It's actually the exact opposite when you break it down. I think Mike Zimmer, in some of the alignments they do, tries to bail out the younger secondary. And as a result, Minnesota not great at stopping the run. Look no further than last weekend's Elijah Mitchell game against the Shanahanigans and the 49ers for proof of that inability to contain running backs. I think Jamal Williams is in line for a huge day, and I probably blew way too much of my fab in the Pirate League to pick him up. But hey, desperate times call for desperate measures. We gotta win out if we're making the playoffs there. So let's get going here. Another bad defense that I already discussed kind of how bad this defense is. The New York Jets. Boston Scott, you have the Eagles running back as a start against them this week. So we broke down the Eagles quarterback situation there for Mario. We're both hoping for a little Minshew magic this weekend. I guess it's Minshew Mania, right? And then it was Fitzmagic. Sorry, my bad. What are you thinking of with Boston Scott here, though? Because Miles Sanders is back for the Eagles, but you say Boston Scott is the play. Sanders as well? What are we doing here?
Yeah, so I'm all aboard Boston Scott this week. He outsnapped Miles Sanders last week, just about doubled him up on touches. He had 17 to 10. So I think Scott is an RB2, although I do think you can play Sanders as a flex. But I think Scott is solidly in an RB2 range this week. As you mentioned with the Jets, their run defense, as far as fantasy points allowed, is pretty terrible. They're actually giving up 35.5 PPR points a game. That's 3.8 worse than the next worst team. And I believe it's a full 7 points below the team that's in third. So I think both these guys are definitely starts this week.
I could tell you wanted to say something besides pretty terrible there, and you thought better of it just because I try to say I'm a Jets fan, even though it's really tough these days. I like that analysis, though, on diving into the snap percentages last week for the Eagles. That was a close game throughout, low-scoring defensive slugfest there against the Giants. And like you say, Boston Scott out-snapping Miles Sanders. He did score a touchdown, if I remember correctly, right? So he was getting the work there on the goal line. So those are both promising signs if you're looking to play Boston Scott this week. I pulled up the Fantasy Pros ECR, and I'm not surprised to see Miles Sanders ahead of him. RB20. This is officially the half PPR rankings, but the way Fantasy Pros does it, I feel like a lot of people rank half PPR with a PPR mindset because half PPR is the main rankings. Anyway, Miles Sanders, RB20 in half PPR, and then Boston Scott, RB27. Coach, do you agree with that? Do you think Scott needs to be bumped up? I know you said you're pretty confident in him as an RB2, so I would imagine at least up a few spots there. Where would you rank the two, or do you have rankings of the two? Where would you put them?
So I prefer Scott to Sanders this week. Let me just take a look at half PPR, and I typically work primarily in PPR as
you can do PPR. That's fine. I know I do PPR all the time too. But I was just saying, I honestly I don't understand why Fantasy Pros doesn't have the main ranker as PPR because no one plays standard anymore. But whatever.
Yeah. For me, I would put Boston Scott right in the. I'd probably flip the two, actually, to tell you the truth. You said, did you say Miles Sanders is right around 20 and Boston Scott's around 28?
27 was Scott, yes. But yes, exactly.
Yeah, I would flip-flop them.
Okay.
I prefer Scott to Sanders.
All right. Bold take, but I like it.
Did want to mention did want to mention I was just looking at it does look like so Sanders has an ankle injury. Does look like he's planning on playing. Boston Scott has an illness and did not practice for the second straight day. So that's something to monitor. I would monitor that closely. I guess when I was looking at why I have Scott above Sanders, it's that ankle is kind of why I was leaning that way. But certainly if one of them misses, the other one becomes a slam dunk play. So.
Gotcha. I guess maybe sneakily keep an eye on Jordan Howard. If things get desperate there in Philly, Jordan Howard resurfaces as another big fantasy game. It'd be so 2021 if he did that. And I'm here for it. What can I say? Let's keep going here. We're going to look at Coach's RB sit. And again, as we're going through these articles, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask away in the chat, be it for Thursday Night Football or the upcoming Week 13 Sunday slate. We're tackling everything, even though we are leading you up to Thursday Night Football. So feel free to ask away. Coach, in the article, you have got sit Tony Pollard tonight. So this one is pertinent against the Saints on Thursday Night Football. Eat your Pollard greens. I love the team name. That's the other reason you got to read Coach's articles. He gives you these excellent fantasy team names. Like, I feel like next year, one of my leagues, I'm going to start changing my team name every single week just based on your articles. They're always worth the laugh. So get in there and read them. That's all I can say. He also has a sitting Alex Collins, though, for the Seahawks against the San Francisco 49ers. I feel like that one's pretty self-explanatory at this point. As much as I love Alex Collins, boy, Seattle's a mess. Talk to us about either one or both quickly, Pollard and Collins, and why you are down on those two. It looks like we do have another question we can get to after that. Yeah, for me, Pollard is one that I like the player. I really do. I think he's, I'm totally bought into what you've been saying, Henry, for a while now. He is the better running back there, and I'm kind of just waiting to see when that flip happens or when it starts to become Pollard getting the 1A touches and Zeke kind of getting less. I'm so proud of you. Yeah. That makes me so happy. Like, I'm not the only one who's crazy now. Okay, go ahead.
There was rumblings going into the weekend that Zeke was going to get shut down for a while, give him some time to heal up. Now it sounds like he's going to get a heavy workload tonight. that might just be smoke and mirrors. I might be completely off on this. I'm sitting Pollard in a couple leagues where I have uh, better options. Better options being Jamal Williams. Better options being uh, Darrell Henderson in another league. But I get it. If you need to start someone, he's definitely um, a flex-worthy player. But as an RB2, I'm not seeing it this week against the Saints defense. Has been tough on running backs all year, and if he's only getting 9 to 10 touches against this defense, if Zeke does really get a full workload, I'm not seeing how Pollard gets it unless he scores a touchdown, which he can always break. But against this defense, it's going to be tough sledding. So I'm off him as an RB2, but definitely think he's in play as a flex.
Love that. Good stuff there. The Saints, just to follow you up on that, number 1 through 12 weeks adjusted defensive efficiency against the run. With all those receivers coming back for Dallas, like we talked about in the opening there, when we were kind of just shedding some light on Thursday Night Football to get going, I think it's going to be a pass-heavy game. And I think that's kind of going to be the Cowboys' plan of attack because for whatever reason, Marshawn Lattimore seems to have taken a giant step back from where he was at corner a season ago for New Orleans compared to how he's playing now. So Pollard is kind of risky there. And honestly, I don't know. Does Ezekiel Elliott fall on the flex radar for you? Like, if you have Ezekiel Elliott, what are you doing tonight? Because you're hearing the rumblings that he's going to take a backseat to Pollard. They're going to minimize his workload. Elliott's come out and said, I'm playing. He's practicing. I'm not sitting out. Shut that rumor down right away after it broke following the Thanksgiving Day game. But he's clearly not 100%. He, I believe, saw one fewer carry than Pollard last week even. And his, intersecting the betting and fantasy spheres here real quick, his rushing yards prop is only like 45 tonight. So that to me is a telltale sign to be worried. I feel like he's a touchdown dependent, maybe low end RB2 if things go well. But the matchup again, what are you doing with Zeke?
So that's a good question. I do have Zeke in one league here, and I was just going to see who I'm starting him over. It's in our dynasty league, actually. So I have Zeke, and I am starting him. I also have Mixon and Henderson. So I'm starting Zeke over Pollard, Myles Gaskin, Javonte Williams, and Rashad Stevenson are my other players. So I do agree. I think Zeke is probably borderline RB1, 2, and very touchdown dependent. I put him kind of right in that 12, 13-ish range this week where he's right on that border.
Okay, you're definitely higher on him than I am then. Let me see where Fantasy Pros has him now, just because I'm curious in PPR. They've got him at RB14. I think that's still higher. You said over Myles Gaskin. They have Darrell Henderson at RB11. I think that's the only one they disagreed with who you're starting him over, though. But you're starting Henderson, I believe, as well, right?
So, yeah, I've got Henderson in there as well. I would start Henderson over Zeke, just to be clear on that.
Yeah. Boy, I might start Pollard over him. Not to completely contradict you, but I don't know. I'll have to come back to you on that one because I may or may not have a little situation with the Cowboys. But I'm going to save my question for later in the show. We got some people patiently waiting here. And I got to think on what I want to do with that situation. Let's see. Spencer John. Oh, what a familiar face that is. Hello, Spencer, watching on YouTube. Coach, he has Deshaun Jackson, James O'Shaughnessy, Noah Fant, Cole Kmet for his tight end spot. Who should he start there? I'm sorry, he has James O'Shaughnessy. It's not Jackson, it's James. James O'Shaughnessy, Noah Fant, Cole Kmet for his tight end spot. Who should he start? And then for his flex, he has Jamison Crowder, but wonders if it would be better to start two of those tight ends instead of Crowder. Did that flow okay? So
Yep.
I think the first question is the tight end, and then is a second one of those tight ends better than Jamison Crowder? So we got O'Shaughnessy and the Jaguars take on the Rams. Boy, that defense has been interesting lately. Noah Fant and the Broncos, they play Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. Low-key a matchup I want nothing to do with the Broncos. And Cole Kmet and the Bears. Cole Kmet's going to get a boost, assuming Andy Dalton's starting again, which I have not seen a recent update on Fields. But I would imagine they're going to be cautious with him. They are playing, though, the Arizona Cardinals, so that's another kind of tough matchup. However, what can I say? Because Kmet made the tight end streamers article over on FlairSports.org this week. So, Coach, what do you think of these three names here?
Yeah, I think I like Fant of those three.
Okay.
I do like Kmet as well. Probably a little bit more if Dalton plays. It sounds like Dalton's been practicing with the starters while Fields has been limited in practice. Gotcha. So I think it doesn't make sense for them to rush Fields back here this week. So I think I think Dalton will be back. I still probably lean Fant there. I think the Broncos are going to need to put up some points to hang around with the Chiefs. And I think Fant would be my play of those three.
Okay. And then, so moving on to the second part of that question, we've got Jamison Crowder currently in the flex. So if you're going to play Fant, would you rather start Cole Kmet or James O'Shaughnessy, who, by the way, is stepping up for the now injured Dan Arnold? Thoughts and prayers. But O'Shaughnessy's actually hasn't been bad. He was hurt himself. Came on, did all right last week, did all right back at the beginning of the year. Jaguars, like we said, we don't have receivers there, so I don't have an issue with picking him up at all. But would you start him or Kmet over Jamison Crowder? That's a tough one.
And this is a PPR?
It is a PPR, I do believe, yes.
Boy, I can't see starting Crowder if Zach Wilson's quarterback. It's boy, I mean, maybe an Elijah Moore because he's electric. But even that, I'm not that high on with Zach Wilson at the helm. I think I'd probably go Cole Kmet at that point. I think as long as Dalton's starting, I like Cole Kmet. I think he's really coming on. Jimmy Graham pilfered a touchdown away from him last week there on Thanksgiving there, as he's bound to do. But Kmet was getting targeted, and he's kind of become the second receiver there. The only thing is any updates on Allen Robinson?
That was what?
No practice today, it looks like, for Robinson either. So I think I like Kmet. I think give me Fant and give me Kmet.
I think I'm right there with you. The Jets, I don't know. I think Zach Wilson can be all right eventually, but there's going to be some growing pains there for sure. Definitely a downgrade from even Joe Flacco a couple weeks ago. Like, in terms of fantasy, talking in the now, Flacco would have done more for Jamison Crowder than Zach Wilson's doing right now. I like Kmet the most of the three tight ends, so I don't know if that changes your thinking at all. But I think I would be inclined to go with Coach there and say I'd probably look to Noah Fant in the flex spot if I was starting Kmet in the tight end. So I'm just kind of flip-flopped on my order there. James O'Shaughnessy, I want to see it work out. Spencer knows I want to see it work out because I ran around at Thanksgiving bragging about Dan Arnold on my roster. But yeah, you can't do it this week against the Rams. The Rams defense needs to go out and make a statement. You can't trust the Jaguars. I got to see it to believe it, I think, first, kind of like we did with Dan Arnold, and then I'll be like, all right. Yeah, good stuff. I think that takes care of it. Thank you to Spencer. We got Q McBride. What's going on, fellas? He's got a couple questions. First, choosing one running back, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. Oh, very interesting that this comes up here. Or James Robinson. So we're throwing in the Jaguars running back to the mix here now, along with Elliott and Pollard. That's question number one. And I don't know that I still have thought of a reason to confidently say I'd rather start Elliott over Pollard. Oh, man.
So for me, this one's pretty simple, except for a little worried about so I would go James Robinson of these three with the matchups this week and with everything going on. However, it looks like he was downgraded today, did not practice. So that shines a whole nother light on this. So you almost have to wait until Sunday if you don't have another option. So, that becomes a tough. So I would take James Robinson, all things considered. I think he's got the most secure workload of those guys. The matchup is not as tough, and he is going to get the passing work as well. It is his show when he's healthy. However, with the injury concern, I mean, if you're going to wait that out, and if I don't know if picking up Carlos Hyde is something that you'd want to do in this matchup. But I would take Robinson. I would put them in the order of Robinson, Elliott, and Pollard.
I would take Robinson too, assuming he plays. I am going to challenge you, though. Is it James Robinson's show when he's healthy? What is Urban Meyer doing? Pulling him out of he's not on the field, down in the red zone. You finally put together a 16-play drive. You're down in the red zone last week, and James Robinson, your best offensive weapon, just isn't on the field. Come on, Urban Meyer. You hate to see it. But yes, James Robinson is the best of those backs. He led off, if your leagues are still trading, I know a few had later trade deadlines, some trade year-round, depending on your format and such. James Robinson led off my Buy Low, Sell High column over on Florida Sports this week because it can only get better than it's been here the last few weeks for him, assuming Urban Meyer is not a complete idiot. And like you said, too, the Rams matchup is actually easier than the one the Cowboys running backs have tonight, which seems weird to say going into a defensive front that has Aaron Donald anchoring it, that you're going to find a more difficult matchup for running backs, but that is actually the case. So I might honestly, even if Robinson is out, I might just take that risk, wait and see on Sunday, and if Carlos Hyde, if it comes down to that, it comes down to that, because I'm just worried, like, what is the split going to be like tonight? I don't know. Maybe I'm just way too down on Ezekiel Elliott. But
yeah, I'm with you, though. I think a change is coming in Dallas, and I think they're starting to realize that he will need to be shut down at some point if they're going to get him to 100%. I think Pollard's looked more explosive and better. Yeah, for me, though, with the goal line work, I think Dallas is going to win this game tonight. I think that they're going to get down to the goal line. I could see Elliott punching one in pretty easily. I think that that's probably his ticket to RB1 status.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. And I'm not saying I'm super high on starting Tony Pollard either. tonight. Like, I actually agree with your sit call in the article. It's just that, I don't know that I want anything to do with either one of them if I can avoid it. In this case, I would avoid it and go James Robinson.
Yeah.
Q McBride did have another question, though, for us. We'll keep moving along here. We got to choose 2 out of the 3. So I believe we're looking at a flex situation. We got David Montgomery with the Bears, also Darnell Mooney with the Bears. So that Allen Robinson update you had there a moment ago, key. Also Andy Dalton at quarterback helps Mooney for sure. And the Bears are taking on the Cardinals. And then we got Mike Williams with the Chargers, who after his great start to the year, things have not gone so well recently. They take on the Bengals in a game that, is anyone really going to want to win that game? I don't know. What do you think here of this scenario? We need 2 of them, Coach.
Yeah. So actually, in the Start Sit article this week, I do hit on 2 of these, and actually do have a start for Mooney, a sit for Williams. And and then so for me, it comes down to Montgomery, Mooney, and I like Mooney. I think if Dalton's there, Mooney's been on a tear. I think I wrote he's been wide receiver 4 over the last 3 weeks. He's been right there in PPR leagues, just putting up some great numbers. Again, last week, 120 some yards, 2 weeks in a row, 120 yards. They're going to need to put up points against the Cardinals. I think as long as Dalton's playing, Allen Robinson looks like he's going to miss again this week. Give me Mooney.
Would you start David Montgomery over Mike Williams? I'm assuming I got that vibe. Or would you backtrack there? Because he actually, I'm sorry to confuse. He needed 2.
So he needs 2.
He has to start 2. Yeah, that's my fault.
So then you're looking at starting 2 Bears. I don't know if I want to go down that road either.
Yeah, that's the tough part.
I'll go with this answer. I like to do this sometimes. If you are a heavy underdog, Mike Williams gives you a puncher's chance. I mean, when he blows up, in the article I wrote that he's had, I think, 5 wide receiver 1 weeks on the year, and it's always when he blows up and scores a touchdown. They're usually long touchdowns. So if he's getting it, he's getting it. But he will blow your lineup too if you don't have solid production from your other guys. So I guess if you're heavy underdog and you're needing to swing for the fences, Mike Williams might be the play. But I think Montgomery is safer and probably more likely to finish the day with better stats.
All right, good stuff. I think I would tend to agree with you. Montgomery probably the more conservative play. So check and see, kind of what your opponent has lined up, and maybe you can use that to help make your decision there. Thank you for the questions. We've got one more here, Anti-Hero on YouTube. Mark Ingram or Saquon Barkley? Full PPR league. So obviously Ingram tonight with the Saints against Dallas on Thursday Night Football. And then Saquon Barkley and the Giants, they travel to South Beach and they play the Dolphins, who are on a roll. Tough one.
It just speaks to how all of these elite running backs this year have fallen on hard times here that we're honestly considering here with our playoff lives on stake. Starting Mark Ingram, grizzled a veteran who's been at multiple teams over the years, over Saquon Barkley, who's one of these top first round picks. I got to go Barkley, and this one just comes down to with Jones out. I mean, he is their offense. It's a tough matchup against the Dolphins, who've been playing much better on defense recently. But I think he's going to be the one that I like to say sometimes when you get these choices like this, it's which guy you're going to kick yourself for if you start the wrong guy. And for me, if you start Ingram and it doesn't work out, I think you're going to kick yourself. Whereas if you start Barkley, you're going to say, I started the better player. I started the guy that I should have, and it didn't work out. So that's kind of how I'll weigh these decisions. But I think Barkley is the better player, probably better situation, even without Daniel Jones. I just think, that being said, I think the Saints' only chance tonight is to run the ball a bunch, and I think Hill and Ingram will be running a lot. But I think Barkley's got some PPR. He will get some passing and check down attempts from Glennon. So give me Barkley.
The only thing I'm going to say is be careful. Daniel Jones actually has been practicing limited past couple of days. Freddie Kitchens went on the record this morning and said he is expecting Daniel Jones with that neck injury to be the New York Giants quarterback on Sunday against the Dolphins. I would argue that's actually better for Saquon Barkley. Mike Glennon, get that out of here. Talk about next. Mark Ingram is the Saints offense tonight, along with Taysom Hill. Like we already discussed that. I think I would agree with you, though. Are you really going to start Mark Ingram over Saquon Barkley and then have it not pan out? Even if Mark Ingram does okay and then Saquon drops what we know he's capable of, and you're going to lose sleep on Sunday night. So you got to go Barkley there. I think Barkley's fine the rest of the year. Obviously offensive lines in both cases are not good because of injuries. But I would side, I think, with the safer play there for sure. Fantasy Pros ECR, they have Barkley RB13 in PPR. They have Ingram down at RB20. Do you think that's a fair gap? Do you like where they're both ranked there? How close is this for you? Is it closer than that? I think I would make the case it's a little bit closer for me because I do respect the Dolphins' defense. And the improvements that they have made. I'm just looking at guys between them. So in PPR, they have Elliott, Jamal Williams, Montgomery, Gaskin, Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams, RBs 14 through 19. So do you like where they're ranked there, or is it a little closer?
So you said Barkley was at 12?
13 in PPR, Mark Ingram at 20 in the consensus.
I think that seems pretty accurate. I would probably put Barkley ahead of Elliott this week. I think I like him better than Jamal Williams. Ingram, I could see moving Ingram up maybe a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I think I probably prefer him to a guy like Josh Jacobs. But I think that seems relatively fair. I'd say that Barkley is probably in that close to that RB1 range, and I'd say Ingram's probably more on the RB2-ish range.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you there. Barkley is an RB2 for me. Like I'm not gonna say he's an RB1, but again, when you're coming down ranking these guys at this point, there aren't many stars up there left to rank. Like it's crazy, the injuries this past week and scenarios playing out in unexpected ways. It is crazy stuff. And Cordell Patterson is a lock and load RB1 on a weekly basis. Like that is what this season has been. Gotta love fantasy football.
Yeah.
I am going to jump back into your wide receiver start sit article here. Coach and I are probably going to be on maybe like 7-ish more minutes and hop off a few minutes before Thursday Night Football. So any last minute start sit questions for week 13 you have, be it tonight or Sunday's games or Monday, just toss those in the chat. We'll answer them quick before we hop off. Right now, Coach, back in your wide receivers article, we talked about Darnell Mooney and Mike Williams because we actually had a question on those two, so that was fun. You also have starting Hunter Renfro with the Raiders this week going up against Washington, a Washington defense that has been playing better, but the Raiders just lost a big part of their passing offense to injury, unfortunately, this past week. Talk to me about not only that scenario, because I'm assuming that's one of the big reasons why you're in on Hunter Renfro, but also do you put him ahead of basically all other Raiders receiving weapons not named Josh Jacobs being a running back there, or where do you rank him within the team? Because I think that's an interesting discussion to have going into this week too.
Yeah, for me, it's Renfro, and I don't even think it's really close. I'd say then the next option is going to be Foster Moreau for as far as who's going to get the targets here. And Renfro, since Ruggs has been gone, has really stepped up, and he's performed, as a wide receiver too most weeks. And last week he really stepped up once Waller was out of the game. So I think Renfro is going to be about as safe of a wide receiver too as you can get this week as far as his volume.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree there. I just don't know where else they're going with the ball in that offense. Like Deshaun Jackson's a deep threat. I don't know that the Raiders are necessarily trying to throw it deep a whole lot. Bryan Edwards, yeah, that worked out great. What a season it's been for the Raiders too. Just putting this whole season in perspective, on and off the field. The other wide receiver sit you had in the article, Kendrick Bourne with the Patriots up against the Bills. Bills just lost their top corner, Tre'Davious White, for the season. So that is something to note. However, I struggle to trust any Patriots receivers or tight ends. We'll throw Hunter Henry in there for good measure on a weekly basis. This offense is just too balanced. You don't really know who's going to find the end zone. It's even starting to become a more split backfield with Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson to a point, although Harris seems to have a hold of the goal line touches. But similar thoughts for you on Bourne, or is there something else to it?
Yeah, it's just kind of the same boat. You don't know who's going to step up week to week, and it's not like any of these receivers is going to blow things away. Bourne has 2 of the last 3 weeks finished, top 5 as a wide receiver, which is, kind of mind-boggling in and of itself. But I'm low on Mac Jones this week, and I'm low on all of the receivers. Henry would be the play. If you need a tight end, I can see that, just because tight end is kind of scarce, especially with if Waller's going to miss this week, and if you're in need of a tight end with anyone on bye too. But I'm off all the Patriots wide receivers this week.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there in the same boat, and really most weeks. Kendrick Bourne, you mentioned those 2 nice games he had with fantasy stuff, but a couple of long touchdowns in both of them. I think he had 2 touchdowns this past week in order to put up those stat lines. So always be wary of where those fantasy points are coming from too. We're going back to our earlier discussion about just looking at the box scores and not how points are getting scored in situations and whatnot. A couple more questions popped up here. Brooks7070 on YouTube. Josh Allen with the Bills in that aforementioned Patriots-Bills Monday Nighter. Or Derek Carr, who actually makes coaches start sit article as a start this week. So this is an interesting one. Boy, I tell you, Josh Allen up against the Patriots. I know some people think that Buffalo's just going to roll. This is a very different Patriots defense than the one he was able to find success against last year. That matchup is tough for me from a fantasy standpoint on all levels. Would you fire up Derek Carr over the running capabilities, though, of Allen?
I don't think you can do it. I think that's one where you got to ride with your guy there. I don't think Josh Allen sees the bench for me if he's my quarterback, I think you got to put him in there in this lineup. You hit the nail on the head. He's got that running capability. He is the Bills' quarterback and number one running back, especially when they get down to the goal line. He's as likely to get shut down and score 2 rushing touchdowns. I don't think you can bench him. Derek Carr, no matter how good the matchup is, still has these games where he will show up flat. He's always a guy that there's a little level of distrust, at least for me, where I've thought it was as great of a matchup as he can get, and he comes out and doesn't put up the numbers. So for me, it's Josh Allen there. I think that's one where which one are you going to kick yourself for if you make the wrong choice? And I think that one, if you get cute and start Derek Carr and it doesn't work out, I think you might regret it.
Yeah, definitely one of those scenarios again where you could be kicking yourself Monday night, or whatever, if Derek Carr lays an egg the day before, and it just you want to try and avoid those headaches when you can. I think for sure. Also, the absence of Waller. Derek Carr's going to have to overcome that, and he did a good job of it down the stretch of that Dallas game. But how is it going to look with a week to prepare defensively for Washington? That is for an offense that lost their best pass catcher. Some more questions popping up here. We'll knock these out. Let's try and do these fairly quickly with Thursday Night Football just a few minutes away. Solar Beats, should he start Mark Ingram or Brandon Ayuk in PPR? So we had a half PPR question with these two same players earlier in the show here, Coach. This one is PPR. I believe you said you would change to Ayuk in PPR. Are you still of that opinion?
Yeah, it becomes a lot closer in PPR for me. I do think I probably lean a little bit towards Ayuk. If Samuel's out, especially, I think in PPR, I think I do think that changes things a little bit for me. Tough choice, but I think PPR might get me to sway it to Ayuk.
All right. I'm just glad that we got you on board with some Shanahanigans at some point in the show. So that's always a win. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 21 in Fantasy Pros ECR for PPR. Mark Ingram, RB20. I think I would be inclined to go with Ayuk there along with you. This game tonight, the more we talk about it, the less I trust it. Max Gillen, thank you. We appreciate it. It has been a fun stream. We appreciate all you guys asking the questions. Appreciate the compliment. Are we rolling with Taysom Hill tonight, Coach, or are we risking it for the biscuit and waiting for Kyler Murray on Sunday against the Bears? Oh.
Boy, that's tough. What's the latest on Murray here? I'm just trying to see. Says he's expected to play this week.
Yep, that's what I got too.
Yeah, that's tough. So I guess I would say this: if it's a matchup where it's close and you should be able to win, or where if you need the sure points, I think you might have to roll with Taysom to get that on the board. If you're an underdog and you need to come out swinging, it might be worth waiting for Kyler. But if you're favored or it's close, I would probably go with Taysom.
Yeah, I think I would roll in a similar direction there. If you can afford the risk, I think, and you need those points. go for the gusto. But if you can afford to just play it safe, obviously Taysom Hill brings you plenty of rushing upside there as well, so he should be fine. James Martin, Dalton Schultz tonight, or Dallas Goddard with the Eagles against the Jets. That's going to be Dallas Goddard for me. I know Jalen Hurts was very uninspiring as a passer last week, but it's the Jets defense. And that's pretty much where I come down on it. The Cowboys will have their full arsenal of receivers. Any rebuttal from you, Coach?
I like it. Goddard's, 1 or 2 in that offense, whereas Schultz is 3 or 4 in the Cowboys offense, and maybe even 4 or 5 with everyone healthy. So yeah, give me Goddard there as well.
All right, Joey Perps, flex spot. Should he start Mark Ingram or Cordell Patterson? Sorry, I should have just looked down at the next chat. Cordell Patterson in PPR. This is Cordell, not even close for me. He can start Ingram in the flex, or he can start Mike Evans. So I'm assuming we've got a running back spot here and a flex spot. Mark Ingram, Cordell Patterson, Mike Evans. Pick 2. Patterson definitely, and I would go with Evans. I think is the other one there.
Yeah,
Would you disagree?
I agree. I think of all 3, I would take Patterson, and then I would take Evans number 2, especially with Antonio Brown still out. I think, I would go Patterson, Evans, and then Ingram in 3rd.
Okay. All right. And then we have got, let's see here. Wale Dahir, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, or DK Metcalf. Pick 2 for full PPR. So 3 receivers here. Ooh, am I really about to say what I thought I was just going to say? So the Colts passing game has it's kind of evolved a little bit here the past few weeks. Jack Doyle, the tight end, getting more involved on the play action and whatnot, as he's a good run blocker. Obviously always on the field, given they like to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. You got T.Y. Hilton coming back. Zach pointed out on Tuesday that it is against the Texans this week, so fire up T.Y. Hilton. Where applicable, Michael Pittman leaves a little bit to be desired. The fact that you get 10 targets last week and only catch 4 of them and do nothing in fantasy, a little bit concerning, but DK Metcalf in the Seattle Seahawks offense, what is going on there? Am I really about to say sit DK Metcalf for these 3? Coach, I'm going to let you go first just so I don't completely make a mistake here and look silly.
Yeah. I would say probably Pittman's the safest of these guys. The only scare with him is that this could just be Jonathan Taylor scoring 5 touchdowns and as they go into killing the clock mode here. So I would say Pittman, and then it's between Ayuk and Metcalf, and boy, that's a tough one. I probably am going to give the edge to Ayuk.
You'd give the edge to Ayuk over Metcalf. I would too, because I just looked up Deebo Samuel's, the latest updates there, and it's not looking good. So, I mean, I know we're not 100% certain that means a huge bump for Ayuk, but I don't want anything to do with the Seahawks right now. I really don't.
Yeah, that's a tough offense to buy any pieces of right now. Even Russell Wilson in single quarterback leagues is he's kind of on the borderline for sit. It's tough to roll him out there.
Yeah, definitely agree. James Cooper is saying that there are reports. I'm sorry. Mixed up my names here. James Martin is in the chat saying reports Amari Cooper might not play. Apparently, he did not warm up. I know he was supposed to have his snap count somewhat reduced early on. But, yeah, I'm sort of seeing the same thing here. That might not be good for my Pirate League team. I think, yeah, we're just after kickoff now, 20 after. So I don't know that you can make changes at this point, but might be some difficult situations to come out of that. Coach, do you like Dak Prescott more than Kyler Murray tonight or less?
Yeah, give me Dak just because he's for sure playing.
Yep.
And yeah, I think you got to take the sure points, especially when it's that close between those two.
Yeah, I agree. Joey Perps back in the chat. Hello again. He has Cortland Sutton too. And then he's wondering about, so that was for that flex. I would still go Mike Evans and Cordell Patterson in that scenario for you. And then he also has Noah Fant, Pat Freiermuth, I never say that name correctly, or Dawson Knox. He can drop one of these tight ends for Knox. So he has Freiermuth and Noah Fant right now. Could go with Dawson Knox. Personally, I don't want to go with Dawson Knox. You know, I know there's red zone targets, and he's scoring a lot of fantasy points, but it's so touchdown dependent. I feel like it just makes me nervous. I really like Freiermuth with the Steelers. It just depends on, you know, what can Big Ben give him. And Coach, you were a little higher on Noah Fant than I was when we discussed that earlier. Where do you come down on him amongst these guys here?
So it's funny. It's funny that you said touchdown dependent for Knox, because I was going to say the same thing for Freiermuth. And I think that's how you pronounce this, Freiermuth. So for me, it would be Knox.
Okay.
Just because it looks like Allen really looks for him near the goal line.
That is true.
Same thing for Freiermuth. I would say the same. That I would actually say they're both pretty touchdown dependent. The only thing is this week you do have a pretty tough matchup for Knox against Buffalo, or excuse me, against New England. Freiermuth gets Baltimore this week. So I actually picked up Knox and I started him in a league. Who did I pick him up for? It was
so based on the matchups, I'm just going to jump in here while you find that. I would go Freiermuth this week. And, even if it comes down to touchdown dependent tight ends, I feel like the Steelers are more likely to be in the red zone multiple times. Like, if I can avoid going against Bill Belichick's defense, I will. And I know the Bills are supposed to have this high-profile offense or whatever. They can't run the ball. Bill Belichick knows that, and he's going to take away what they are good at. Kyle Duggar apparently has the dreaded virus, so that might be something to watch going into this weekend, because that's losing their safety hurts, but still, I foresee a couple of defensive games here, but I think Pittsburgh needs to respond after last week. So I do lean Freiermuth here a little bit, and I'm kind of surprised to say that, but sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to have to disagree on that one. I think for me it's Knox, and
Okay.
and I'm going to use that same logic too, because I think if I'm Belichick and I'm taking away anyone, I'm taking away Diggs.
True.
And I'm doubling him up or doing something over there and kind of saying, here, beat me with these other guys. And I don't know if Knox is going to be that high on his priority list. So I could actually see Knox being a beneficiary of a little bit of that. So I kind of like Knox. over Freiermuth, I think. So that's kind of a tough choice, but yeah, it's flip a coin. Which one's going to score the touchdown?
Yeah, it is very close. And you threw my own argument right back at me. And I totally respect that because it's a very valid one that you came back with. So I think there's a lot of ways to read it. We can even go into the fact that the Ravens are, in terms of fantasy points allowed to tight ends, they're among the worst teams in football, if not the worst. They were up there, I know, last week. So, I think both guys have actually potential to do all right this week. So Joey is wondering about dropping Noah Fant then to pick up Dawson Knox. So I would aim to pick up Dawson Knox if you have the spot. But he said he has Cortland Sutton too. So before we say drop Fant for Dawson Knox, I have to throw Cortland Sutton at you here, Coach, because Cortland Sutton is doing absolutely nothing these days other than signing a new contract extension and praying that the Broncos move on from Teddy Bridgewater after this season, which I think they will. He's better than 3 fantasy points per game or whatever he's been doing lately. Would you drop Noah Fant or Cortland Sutton for Dawson Knox, though?
Boy.
Because I actually think, and the reason I ask it this way is because I think Fant is safer with Bridgewater. Like, I honestly believe that. I think Fant and the 2 running backs are probably the safest fantasy football weapons any given week. And then I would take Jerry Jeudy among the receivers. And it's really sickening to say that because I really like Tim Patrick even too.
Yeah. I mean, Sutton, since Judy's been back, has 2, 3, and 3 targets. And even before that, he had 5 and 4. He's really only had a handful of nice games, like actually 3 nice games this year where he was relevant. The only thing I would say is if there's not much out there at wide receiver, maybe, but I would say I would probably lean towards dropping Sutton. I think at this point he's not really doing much for you, and I would probably roll with the 3 tight ends.
I am right there with you, so I'm glad you're on board with me. I mean, it's week after week when I write the biggest disappointments article that goes up Mondays. After NFL Sunday, Cortland Sutton is always like he's been in there. I feel like 3 of the last 4 weeks, and the only time he wasn't was when the Broncos were on bye. So, or he could have been in there even if he wasn't. So it's at some point you gotta cut your losses and move on. And I just don't think that kind of the style of receiver he is fits with what Bridgewater's doing. But Bridgewater's not going to turn the ball over. He's just going to severely handicap, I think, the fantasy upside of all those weapons there in Denver, and they do have a lot of them. So hopefully they'll get the quarterback situation straightened out here in the offseason. Thank you, Joey, for those questions. He did here just chime in. His wide receivers right now are Deebo Samuel, Tyler Lockett, Mike Evans, and Cortland Sutton. So obviously Deebo Samuel is a little bit of an issue. Does that change your frame of mind? Would you still drop Sutton and maybe see what's on waivers?
It's hard not to think you can't find replacement for Sutton on waivers right now.
Yeah.
I don't know how deep the league is with Deebo being hurt, and if you're starting 3 and you need a body, but I cut Sutton in a league a couple weeks ago here just because there was other receivers that were available, and I would have to think you can find somebody that's going to get a few more targets than that, unless you're in a really deep league. But I think for me, it's drop Sutton if it's only a start 2 wide receiver league, or if there's something else on waivers. But otherwise, if you only want to roll with 2 tight ends, I would drop Fant of those 2. But I would prioritize dropping Sutton over Fant if there's anything out there in the wide receiver waiver market.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're probably going to have to pick somebody up to cover Deebo Samuel. And I'm not mean, I've said it on the show before. I'm not a huge Tyler Lockett fan, and we kind of talked about the Seahawks and how they're struggling right now too. When we were talking about Metcalf there earlier, so I might honestly look at dropping Sutton for a receiver, and then dropping Fant for Dawson Knox there, like you said. I think that would come down to it, and just do 1 for 1 at each position.
And if this isn't a dynasty league, I could even see the guy for Detroit last week, that Josh Reynolds. I could see him possibly having at least a guy like that. At least there's something going on there where, but you're getting nothing with Sutton, and the only way you really have a shot is if something happens to Judy again, and even then, Sutton wasn't putting up predictable numbers. So I think I'd take my chances working the waiver wire there.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see here quick. So I'm looking at a 10-team league, one of mine that I just pulled up. Available receivers. Again, we aren't exactly sure how deep the league is, but Devontae Parker's set to come back for the Dolphins this week. Somebody might have dropped him when he was out hurt. I would rather play him over Cortland Sutton for sure if I need to put someone in there. Darnell Mooney, we talked about. We're both high on him for sure. AJ Green, I would rather have against Chicago, no matter who's at quarterback for the Cardinals. T.Y. Hilton is available in this league against Houston. Definitely would take him over Sutton. Amon-Ra St. Brown, to your point on the Lions, I would rather have him, I think, at this point as well. So kind of a tough situation there. And he said also he had Calvin Ridley, but obviously that ship has sailed this season. So just keep making adjustments, keep making tweaks. There's definitely going to be, I think, more upside out there that you can find. As far as the tight ends go, we're both down with dropping Noah Fant and picking up Dawson Knox for this week and moving forward. And then with receivers, I think getting Sutton out of here is going to be to your benefit. Top name receivers on his waiver wire: Sterling Shepard, Russell Gage, Kenny Galladay, Jamison Crowder, Tim Patrick. I would definitely pick up the first two there for sure. Now, Shepard, you got to be careful because of his injuries. After that, I don't know.
I would take Shepard if he's healthy. Gage, I'd roll out there. I would even probably take Galladay. I think you're at least getting a shot at something. If Daniel Jones is healthy, and if he's healthy, that's another injury deal. I don't know about Crowder. We talked about him earlier.
Crowder or Sutton? What? Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's a horse apiece right there, right? Yeah. I don't know. I think a guy like Josh Reynolds, I'd probably roll the dice there and just see if there's anything there with that old rapport with Goff, and I'd play the matchups. You can look and see wide receivers that are popping off week after week and see if it's a trend, and you'll be able to find something better than what you got there with Sutton.
Yeah, and again, dive down further than just those up top names too on the waiver wire, because sometimes the guys who are projected for the most points on ESPN and Sleeper even and wherever else you play, they're not necessarily the best ones to pick up in a given matchup or with injury situations or whatnot. Coach, I found it funny this week. I'm in a 16-teamer. It's the only league I play in on ESPN, and they have Rex Burkhead projected for almost 3 whole points more than Damian Harris. In what world? I guess it is PPR, but come on. I can't stretch that far. I mean, I'm glad Rex Burkhead's on my bench. Don't get me wrong with how that Texan situation has evolved, but I'm not starting him over Damian Harris.
Now, I thought I saw today David Johnson missed practice and is now looking like he might not play. So that might be maybe they got the inside scoop on that. Yeah, if that's the case, I probably would put Burkhead above Harris. I would have to strongly consider that with Harris and Stevenson splitting carries against the Bills. So maybe that's what they're on.
They had that line 2 days ago, though. They didn't know that in advance, did they? Maybe it'll probably get even worse now, and it'll be
Yeah.
like 6-point difference, and I'll start Burkhead in my flex. That's what's going to happen. You watch. All right, good stuff. We got to hop off. Thursday Night Football has kicked off. Loaded show. Thank you all for the questions. I don't think either of us were planning on a full 90 minutes, but here we are. Head on over to flurrysports.org. Check out all of Coach's Start Sit articles. There were a couple names we didn't get to in those. I think the quarterback one we didn't cover in full. If you want more of his analysis on the other players as well, make sure to head on over and check those all out, along with all the other great fantasy football content. Zach Bruner's fantasy rankings, they'll be updated prior to Sunday morning even as well. You got streamers across every position, tight end, defense, whatever you need. And there'll be plenty of some game previews coming out too. So if you're into betting or whatever, or just want more insight on the games themselves, check out the betting game previews as they roll out ahead of Week 13 as well. Again, thank you everyone for the interactivity. Great show. You guys make it better. So we really appreciate it. Coach, thanks for joining me. Thank you for joining all of us. It was a blast, man.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck, everyone, this week, and let's keep talking here as we move into the playoffs over the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Just 2 weeks of regular season fantasy football to go. So hopefully we can secure some wins this week, and we'll be back to help you lock down that playoff seed next week before Week 14. Until then, make sure you follow Coach Schroeder on Twitter at SchroederCoach. Follow me if you really want to at HangTimeHenry. Follow Flurry Sports. Those watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell. There are fantasy football shows 3 or 4 nights a week on this channel, so you won't miss a thing going forward. That's it. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. Best of luck in Week 13, and we will talk to you next week. Take care.